When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the King Jordan Radio Show. It is August 18th, 2016, and thank you for joining us, either on iTunes Radio or on your iPhone. Also, please visit us at KingJordanSportsandMedia.com. Tonight on the show, we're going to talk about Dr. Murray's book, This Is It, Freddie Gray and the decision not to prosecute the remaining officers, George Zimmerman, and we'll touch on the GOAT, Muhammad Ali. Now, rather than me introduce the guest, take a listen to this clip, and then we'll introduce our guest.
As one of this nation's most important and powerful legal figures, Thomas A. Mesereau Jr. has achieved remarkable success in high-stakes criminal defense trials. Widely known for achieving acquittal of the late Michael Jackson on all 14 charges in a child molestation indictment, Thomas accomplished far more. A renowned criminal defense attorney, the famous and the not-so-famous have put their trust in him. Born in West Point, New York, Tom is a graduate of Harvard University, the London School of Economics, and the University of California Hastings College of Law. He began his legal career as a prosecutor, but soon found that criminal defense work would be where he would find his calling and, more importantly, his passion. Tom has successfully represented a wide array of white-collar and blue-collar clients in federal and state courts and has won 3 consecutive white-collar cases before federal juries in Los Angeles. He was the first and only California criminal lawyer to obtain bail for his client, Robert Blake, who was facing murder charges. In 2009, he successfully defended the highest-grossing real estate agent in the country, who was facing 21 counts of conspiracy and bank, loan, and mortgage fraud. Tom was also the first criminal lawyer to call an expert witness on cross-racial eyewitness identification in a death penalty trial in Alabama. His client was acquitted. Tom has been recognized with numerous accolades, tributes, and awards. Barbara Walters named him as one of the year's 10 most fascinating people for his trial excellence and commitment to representing the underprivileged in 2005. Loyola Law School in Los Angeles presented Tom with the prestigious 2011 Fiddler Institute Award for Excellence in Criminal Defense. He has been asked to speak at Harvard Law School and was asked by the City Club of Cleveland to be their Law Day speaker in May 2015. While Tom's legal career is noted with many highly publicized courtroom successes, he has a private and lifelong commitment to pro bono work, charitable activities, and remarkable giving. His compassion for others compels Tom to provide pro bono work as often as possible. For the past 18 years, Tom has defended a capital murder case with a colleague in Alabama. The jury acquittal of Wesley Quick, who spent 6 years on Alabama's death row for 2 murders he did not commit, is listed in the report of the National Registry of Exonerations, a joint project of Michigan and Northwestern law schools. Tom believes in returning to communities to help solve problems and reach out to the youth. He co-founded the Mesereau Free Legal Clinic, where judges and lawyers donate their time 2 Saturdays a month and work with individuals who need help with legal matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tom Mesereau. Good evening, Tom, and how are you? And welcome back to the King Jordan Radio Show.
Well, hi, Jordan. Thank you for inviting me again. It's always a privilege to be on your great show, and thank you for the generous accolades.
Absolutely, my pleasure. There's a few trials and stories that I wanted to get into. Freddie Gray being one of them. Here is the prosecutor after she addresses the media when she decides to drop the case of the remaining officers. I want to get your take after this soundbite.
My professional role in this matter is plain: to seek justice on behalf of an innocent 25-year-old man who was unreasonably taken into custody after fleeing in his neighborhood, which just happens to be a high-crime neighborhood, and had his spine partially severed in the back of a Baltimore police wagon. For those that believe that I'm anti-police, it's simply not the case. I'm anti-police brutality, and I need not remind you that the only loss and the greatest loss in all of this was that of Freddie Gray's life. We do not believe that Freddie Gray killed himself. We stand by the medical examiner's determination that Freddie Gray's death was a homicide. However, after much thought and prayer, it has become clear to me that without being able to work with an independent investigatory agency from the very start, without having a say in the election of whether our cases proceed in front of a judge or a jury, without communal oversight of policing in this community, without real substantive reforms to the current criminal justice system, we could try this case 100 times and cases just like it, and we would still end up with the same result. Accordingly, I have decided not to proceed on the cases against Officer Garrett, Sergeant Alicia White, or to relitigate the case against William Porter. What I've learned through this experience is that every battle, every hurdle, every obstacle that we've overcome since the pursuit of these cases has brought us one step closer to equality, and that any and every step towards equality in our justice system is well worth fighting for. This system is in need of reform, and when it comes to police accountability, and as long as I'm the chief prosecutor for this city, I vow to you that my office and I will fight. We will fight for a fair and equitable justice system for all, so that whatever happened to Freddie Gray never happens to another person in this community again. Thank you.
Tom Mesereau, what do you make of Marilyn Mosby's decision, A, to take on these cases, and B, to furthermore drop? She did get some criticism. What is your take?
You know, I agree with what the prosecutor just said. Basically, what she was admitting was that because the procedures, in effect, are not fair, meaning the police don't have to face juries if they want to face a judge. Remember, judges are political. They are elected officials. They are politicians, whether you want to admit it or not. And they answer to a voting public. And that, in my opinion, makes a bench trial, for most purposes, less fair than a jury trial. And in Baltimore, as I understand, police want to avoid a jury, they can just go with a judge. And I think what she said was, I'm just being practical and realistic. There have been 4 acquittals. You know, there are likely to be more if we keep, prosecuting these police officers in this system. And we're going to accept reality and admit that we better work to reform the justice system in Baltimore. So I think she was being practical and realistic. And I like what she said, that Freddie Gray clearly did not commit suicide. Somebody's responsible for what happened to him. But the way the system is constructed, we're not likely to get fair results when we go after police in a situation like this. So I agree with what the prosecutor said. I think she was being realistic.
And the criticism that she faces from the other legal experts, I would tend to think that you disagree.
Well, I mean, look, should these police officers have been prosecuted before juries? Yes, absolutely. I think a jury is a cross-section of the community. You have people from different parts of life, different occupations, different experiences in life. They pull all of their thoughts and wisdom and experiences together, and the theory is that, a higher form of justice results. But as the system is set up in Baltimore, police officers can avoid facing a jury in a case like this and just face one judge, who's, as I said before, is an elected official. So I think the prosecutor was being realistic. She knew that they were likely to get the same result again and again and again, given the way the system is set up. I think these police officers should have been prosecuted. I think the issue should have been a public issue, subjected to public debate and public scrutiny. And clearly she did not sympathize with the way the system was built, and she wants reform. She wants police officers to face juries like everybody else has to be. An ordinary citizen gets prosecuted, and they can request a judge only, but the prosecutor has to go along with it. Apparently in Baltimore, if the police want to go with a judge, even if the prosecution objects, they get the judge. So I think she was being realistic. And I think her goals were very good. I think her motivations were good. She knows Freddie Gray did not get just policeman. She knows that. And she wanted to make people accountable, but she realized this system was not going to do that. So whatever she did, she was going to be attacked. There's no question about that. If the other officers went to trial and they were acquitted, they'd all be saying we were exonerated, every one of us, we did nothing wrong. She wasn't thrilled with that possibility either. So she basically attacked the system for not bringing out justice, and I agree with her.
No question about it. To speak to Tom, we have limited time tonight. Call up 347-857-2950. We're going to talk about George Zimmerman now. A couple of weeks he got into some trouble. Here's the story, and we'll get your take on the other side.
Story you haven't seen online yet or on any other station. Only Eyewitness News found out George Zimmerman had another confrontation where he had to call Seminole County deputies for help. Investigative reporter Carla Ray is the first reporter to break the details in this latest case, and Carla, he's considered the victim this time.
Yeah, he called 911 over the weekend after a man punched him square in the face at a bar so hard it broke his glasses. But witnesses told deputies Zimmerman had it coming.
What started the argument? He recognized me.
Inside this local bar and grill right on the St. Johns River in Sanford, investigators say the infamous George Zimmerman is accused of attracting trouble again.
He told me he was going to kill me. He told me to shoot me. He punched me in the face.
Only Eyewitness News obtained Zimmerman's latest desperate call to 911, asking for help from inside Gators Riverside over the weekend. According to this report, Zimmerman claimed he was explaining to people sitting at a table that he shot Trayvon Martin in self-defense when a large man approached and asked, quote, "You're bragging about that?" before punching him square in the face.
This man just punched me in the face.
Okay, is he still there?
Yep. He said he's going to kill me.
Does he have any weapons?
He just sent like 3 or 4 cops.
Zimmerman is considered the victim in this case, but witnesses told deputies the problem started because he was bragging about killing the unarmed teen in 2012, claiming he said, quote, "I love your tattoos. My name is George Zimmerman. You know, that guy who killed Trayvon Martin," and even showing his identification card. It's not the first time his acquittal has made him a target. Just over a year ago, Matthew Apperson was arrested and accused of trying to kill Zimmerman during a road rage incident.
The guy punched me in the face and called me a lover.
Now, the man who threw that punch allegedly in this case could face charges, but he hasn't been identified yet. We will, of course, keep you posted.
Okay, Tom Mesereau, it seems like since Zimmerman has been acquitted, he's been doing nothing but negative things. What's your commentary on what's going on this latest incident with George Zimmerman?
Well, I'm not a fan of Mr. Zimmerman. I watched some of the trial. I thought his defense attorney did an excellent job. I know him. He's a very bright lawyer, very, very capable. He did his job, but I thought Zimmerman was guilty. I thought the prosecution did a very poor job in presenting the case. They almost looked defeatist when they walked into that courtroom. And he's not someone I have any sympathy for. As the evidence, as I understand it, was that he called the police. He saw Trayvon alone with a hoodie, walking through a neighborhood. By virtue of his race, by virtue of the way he was dressed, he thought he must be up to some trouble, which is racial profiling, to the utmost. And he was told by the police, don't follow him, don't get involved, proceeded to do it anyway. And I think he should have been convicted of murder, frankly, but based on the evidence that I know. That was my opinion. So I have no sympathy for him. I remember years ago a famous criminal defense lawyer named Jerry Spence, who wrote some great books, and I read all of them many times. He made a statement. He said that he had never seen someone who committed murder, who got off, who was acquitted, live a very good life. And he always felt that people he thought had been committed murder, who had been acquitted, who had beaten the system, went out there and never seemed to have a very good life after that. And, I'm wondering if that's applying to him. I know a jury acquitted him, and we have to honor our system. It's the best system in the world, but it's filled with all sorts of problems. And injustice does result because everybody's human, nobody's perfect. People are biased, and different regions of the country, you get different types of juries. And for whatever reason, this jury thought he was not guilty, even though I think he was the cause of everything that happened. Didn't listen to the police, had a gun. He almost, from what I could see, and this is all my opinion, he was acting like a wannabe cop. And so I have very little sympathy for him, and I'll leave it at that.
And you mentioned the prosecutors. In your opinion, what were some of the things that they did? Like maybe the experts weren't on point, maybe?
Well, I just felt that their attitude, from what I could see, looked almost defeatist. From the moment they walked into that courtroom, and I think maybe, given the jury pool, given some of the biases in the community towards young African American men, maybe they knew this was going to be a very difficult case, even though it was clear that these actions appear to have been precipitated by him by not listening to what the police said and just backing off and leaving. That's how I view it, based on the evidence I've seen.
Yeah.
As I understand it, Trayvon was minding his own business, had just gone to the store, was on his way back home to see his father or his cousin or his uncle, I can't remember, had no weapon, was not looking for any trouble. And from what I can see, everything was precipitated by this fellow, based on the evidence I watched during the limited time I saw some of the trial. Of course, I wasn't in the courtroom. I didn't see everything. But that's just my opinion. I disagree with the jury's verdict.
You and like half America does, but some good did come out of that, some people say. So we'll see going forward. Before you were on here last, you represented one of the biggest icons. We lost another icon earlier this summer. His name is Muhammad Ali, and here's some sound. I want to get your take of him.
Not only a force in the ring, as we saw right there, but in life, stunning the world, his passion, his way with words, never failing to deliver a punch or a punch line. We're going to speak to two people who knew him well in a moment, but first, ABC's David Wright has some of his greatest and most poetic hits.
I have wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale.
Beautiful shots all the way.
I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail.
He was poetry in motion.
I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat.
Nobody ever so fast on his feet.
Too much speed, boy. Too fast. Too fast.
So quick with a comeback.
You're being extremely truculent. Whatever truculent means, if that's good, I'm that.
His dominance complete. He made sure the whole world had a ringside seat.
I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
The Louisville Lip, his words packed a punch.
It will be a killer and a chiller and a thriller when I get the gorilla in Manila.
I
don't care how small the ring is. I'll fight that chump in a telephone booth.
Telling all his opponents,
I'm hollering loud because I can back up every word. And I'll whoop any man in the world, and I want everybody out there on TV to know it.
he'd eat them for lunch.
I saw Sonny Liston a few days ago, Cash. Ain't he ugly? He's too ugly to be the world champ. The world champ should be pretty like me.
If you think the world was surprised when Nixon resigned, wait till I kick Fulman's behind.
Muhammad Ali loved talking smack.
Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
He was trying to psych me out. I was every name in the book. I mean, I was this, I was that, you know, and I said, wow.
All of it, just part of his plan of attack.
Clay comes out to meet Liston, and Liston starts to retreat. If Liston goes back an inch farther, he'll end up in the ringside seat.
For Good Morning America, David Wright, ABC News, San Francisco.
Tom Mesereau, like Michael Jackson, Muhammad Ali will be considered maybe the top the four Rushmores in that four-headed monster group. What's your thoughts as a boxing fan and overall of the GOAT, Muhammad Ali?
Well, I think Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest men of my lifetime. You know, as a teenager, I had three heroes that I really watched very closely. Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Jack Johnson, one of the greatest fighters of all time. And also a man who's been forgotten. His name was Stokely Carmichael. He later changed his name to Kwame Ture. These were three courageous, charismatic, brilliant, handsome, dynamic men who used what gifts they had in the most courageous way to bring about change in the world. And I was a boxing fan for the time I was little. The first live professional fight I ever went to was in the old Madison Square Garden, Cassius Clay versus Doug Jones. He hadn't changed his name yet to Muhammad Ali. I went with my grandfather and my father. We sat at ringside, and it was one of the most dynamic spectacles I had ever seen. They turned off every light in Madison Square Garden. They shined a beam on one entrance. Doug Jones, the opponent, came in, and most of the crowd was supporting him. And then they shined the beam on the other entrance, and nothing happened, and nothing happened, and nothing happened, and everyone's sitting around wondering what's going on. And suddenly, this charismatic, dynamic, exceptional person comes sprinting through the crowd in white satin robes. I mean, just does a sprint, you know, jumps in the ring, starts, you know, with his arms up in the air. It was one of the most dramatic, incredible entrances I've ever seen in any sporting event. And of course, he was, you know, creating poems and saying what round he would knock people out in, and you know, but underneath all the self-promotion and the fanfare was an enormously sensitive, courageous, giving person. He really wanted to change the world and make it better. He was just very, very selfless, willing to sacrifice himself and his career for the sake of civil rights. And he was a courageous man throughout his life. I mean, when he had all these serious health problems, you know, Parkinson's disease, whatever else he may have been suffering from because of all those years in the ring, he showed enormous courage. He showed all of us just how to just be grateful in life, to be spiritual, to be kind to others. He was enormously kind to people. And I saw him up at West Point, New York. My father was a graduate of the United States Military Academy, and he was with Howard Cosell, and these were the finals in the effort to pick a U.S. Olympic boxing team before the Olympics. And I'll never forget that because he would walk around the gym at West Point, and this army of children would follow him. Children just were drawn to this man like you wouldn't believe. And he had such a kind, sensitive, decent side to him. He was always kind to others, too generous. He gave away a lot of his wealth to other people, particularly people in need. I remember reading about he went to he did so many charitable things. He was a rough guy too. He was the greatest. I mean, he showed grace and speed and talent and in the ring like nobody else had seen before, and I don't think we've ever seen it since. So I consider Muhammad Ali absolutely the greatest, one of the greatest men in American history, and I'm lucky I was able to see him the way I was.
And seeing him live, can you describe that feeling to our audience?
Well, he was this incredible athlete. I mean, just an incredible physical specimen. Muscular, but not overly muscled. Lean and trim as can be. You know, incredibly handsome, incredibly dynamic, very charismatic. A real psychologist would get into the psyche of his opponents and figure out how to just throw them off balance with outrageous actions. I mean, but he also was a very, very sensitive soul. He believed in civil rights. He believed his people had been treated horribly throughout American history. And he wanted to show that this is not right and this cannot continue. He was willing to sacrifice his entire career to do it. And, you know, lesser human beings would have said, no, my career comes first. You know, my making money comes first. And that's not Muhammad Ali. And he was an inspiration throughout his life, even when he was seriously ill and could hardly speak. He was showing us just how to live with courage and dignity and pride. I mean, a great, great man, for sure.
No question about it, and he touched a lot of people. There's no question about it. Young, old, black, white, Spanish, everybody.
Everybody. He treated everyone with love and with compassion and with dignity, and he really wanted to change the world in a positive way, and he really did. He was a great, great man. Okay, Dr. Murray, Conrad Murray, the man, a court rules responsible for the death of Michael Jackson, has just wrote a book called This Is It. Cheryl Underwood and The Talk discussed this on their show. Here's a small clip, and I want to get your take.
What is the story that everybody is talking about?
Okay, everybody's talking about Conrad Murray. The doctor who was held responsible for Michael Jackson's death in 2009 has written a tell-all book called This Is It, about his relationship with the King of Pop. And one of his more sensational claims is that Michael was infatuated with Harry Potter star Emma Watson and wanted to marry her when she was just 11 years old. Right. He also says Michael had been given injections at age 13 to delay puberty and keep his voice high, and that they used to frequent strip clubs together, and that Michael would disguise himself as a clown or a stroke victim to keep from being recognized. Look, this is just what he says, Sharon. But somehow, despite these shocking revelations, Murray maintains that he had Michael's blessing to, quote, set the record straight. So my questions for you ladies is, would you want to read what Conrad Murray has?
This guy was profiting in an unlawful and despicable way before Michael was dead, and he's trying to do it now. And it's
really hateful. This man is hateful. He has no life. It's like if you were him and had done what he had done, you would just like want to disappear from the public.
I just can't stand to think what this is doing to his children. Yeah. I mean, their father is dead. He's gone. Let's just remember him for the amazing musician that he was. I mean, I play Jackson 5 in the car on the way to school every morning with my kid, and he loves it, and that's the way I want to remember Michael Jackson. I don't need to hear any of this stuff.
And why doesn't Conrad Murray use that blessing from God, that medical skill, whatever state it is, for something good, and not keep dwelling back on this? And this is disrespectful to the family. This is disrespectful to Michael Jackson's memory. And if he really wants to make amends, he should go on and do something good with his life. But I worked in strip clubs, and there's a lot of clowns in strip clubs. But we have someone from home who wants to weigh in. Let's hear what Michelle from Illinois has to say.
As fascinating as this book sounds on so many levels, I do not trust Conrad Murray's intentions. Is it to make a quick buck, to clear his own name? I don't want him ruining my impression of the King of Pop.
Well, for people who are wondering quickly about whether this is legal to write this book, typically if you have committed a crime, you cannot write a book that helps you profit from the commission of a crime. But he is not writing about the actual crime itself, but rather other details about Michael's life. So while it's despicable and really low rent, it is not illegal.
And people are just so fascinated by Michael Jackson.
People love Michael Jackson
today.
But I hope knowing by Murray's perspective, we're not fascinated. We're fascinated about Michael Jackson, not Conrad Murray.
People will like him, unfortunately. Lindsay Miller from Pop Sugar, thank you so much.
Okay, Tom, you represented, of course, Michael Jackson in 2005. Hearing what's this, and have you formed an opinion of Conrad Murray coming out with the book, This Is It?
Well, I don't want to talk too much about him. I have no use for him. I have no respect for him. I don't believe anything he says. I'm certainly not going to read the book. I will say this, however, I'm not someone who participates in book boycotts. Believer in freedom of the press. I'm a great believer in freedom of speech. I'm a great believer in the marketplace of ideas where all opinions, no matter how much they differ, can be laid on the table and discussed. And I don't like boycotts of books. And I especially don't think books should be boycotted that haven't been read. For example, I attacked the boycott of the book
Randall Sullivan
by Randall Sullivan. I thought it was a disgrace that people were putting negative book reviews on the internet when they hadn't even read the book. And I thought the book had a lot to offer to anyone who wanted to learn about the life of Michael Jackson. I'm not saying you agree with all of it. I'm not saying you like all of it. But I think a lot of it was very positive, at least in terms of clearing his reputation in the work that I did. You know, these horrible accusations of child molestation and giving alcohol to a cancer-stricken child to set him up to be molested, and conspiracy to abduct children and falsely imprison a family. I felt the book did a lot to help the dialogue and the historical record about this whole issue. So I don't like boycotts. I especially don't like boycotts of things you never read, and I never intend to read it. So I don't have much else to say about Conrad Murray. You know, I've never felt that he intended to kill Michael Jackson, but I thought he was selfish and sloppy and negligent and, having a great time and bended his ethics, and was responsible clearly for the death of the great Michael Jackson. So I don't want to say anything more about him. That's really it. I don't really care much about him. He's a non-event to me.
That's the best way you could go on that one. Okay, let's go out to the callers. 347-857-2950. Talk to the great Tom Mesereau. Let's try 508. Please state your name and where you're calling from. You're up first with Tom Mesereau. 508. Please state your name.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is Hi. This is Nancy calling from New England. How are you today?
I'm doing fine.
Hi,
thank you for calling.
That's good. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I wanted to thank you for giving Debbie from the Reflections on the Dance site the transcripts. Transcripts, they're appalling that this case even went forward for Michael Jackson. But what I really wanted to talk to you about is how that happened. Because I was reading something Miss Yu wrote that was like 200 pages of what was wrong with the grand jury, which I was wondering if that was like normal to have 200 pages of stuff that you feel the prosecutors did wrong in the grand jury. But before I forget, because I don't really like this publicly, what I wanted to ask you about also was these motions that I was reading between you and the prosecutors, where like you see on Luna Joe's stuff that it's a big thing, we got him, all this stuff, 10 years of all this crap and all this stuff, and they're going back to the 1108 stuff, and then it says in these motions that they don't want to give you the stuff from 93, like evidence, like even before the trial or close to the trial or any of that stuff. They don't want to give it to you. And then Mr. Zonin puts it in as rebuttal, like he wants to supposedly put the pictures in for rebuttal, but I would think that he would have put that in for 1108 stuff because Jordan Chandler was supposedly on the list. So I was wondering if you could, kind of elaborate on that, if you understand what I'm talking about.
Well, thank you for calling. I can't possibly spend all the time addressing all of that.
I know. Right.
Let me just condense my response down to a couple of points. First of all, in any grand jury, there is no judge and there is no defense attorney. The only people present in a grand jury room are the grand jurors and the prosecutor. The prosecutor is not controlled by a judge. He controls the witnesses. He asks them whatever, or if she is a prosecutor, she asks them whatever she wants. No defense lawyer tests the credibility of witnesses. No defense lawyer cross-examines. And no judge stops prosecutors from doing whatever they want. So The prosecutor in a grand jury room is the producer, director, choreographer, you name it. And they're not fair proceedings. Now, in the Michael Jackson case, the way it began, the prosecution in Santa Barbara had filed a criminal complaint formation. And the procedure is that if you charge someone by filing a criminal complaint, or also called a criminal information, there must be a public preliminary hearing for it to continue to go forward to trial. And a preliminary hearing is a public proceeding. It's in front of a judge, not a jury, and the prosecution has a very low burden of proof. They have to show enough evidence to establish what is called probable cause that the case must go forward. It's a very low burden, but it's public. And the defense lawyer is there, and a judge is there, and the defense lawyer can cross-examine. Originally, that case was headed towards a public preliminary hearing. Before it got to a preliminary hearing, the prosecutors changed their tactics and decided to go by way of a secret grand jury. In other words, they basically scuttled their criminal complaint and decided to present everything in secret without a judge and without defense lawyers to a grand jury in a closed proceeding that was not public. And they asked the grand jury to return an indictment, and based on what the prosecutors showed them and told them, they decided to indict. So it was not a fair proceeding. A grand jury is a stacked deck. There's an old saying, you can indict a ham sandwich if you want to. That's been around. That saying's been around for decades. So it was not a fair hearing before that grand jury, and it was done to make sure a judge didn't control anything and the public didn't see anything and the defense lawyer couldn't ask questions. So that's how we got charged. You know,
Thanks
that's
so much
how we
for
got
the call.
charged. Okay.
Let's go out to 703 is the area code. Please state your name and where you're calling from. You're live on the phone with Tom Mesereau. 703, it's your turn.
Hey, how's it going? My area code is 703. I'm in Woodbridge right now, 62191, that's the zip code. My name is Imam.
Well, nice to meet you, and thanks for calling.
Thank you very much. And so, first of all, I want to thank Jordan for taking my call. I very much appreciate it. And I wanted to start off by saying that it's an absolute tremendous honor and privilege to be speaking to the one and only Tom Mesereau.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And as for questions and concerns, well, I've got several. Well, I'd love, and I'd absolutely love for someone of your caliber and stature to address it. So nonetheless, before I begin, I'd like to emphasize that, you know, I'm not in any kind of way whatsoever trying to come off the wrong way, so I apologize. It's just because I'm slightly nervous. But okay. But my questions are just coming out of personal concern. So first off, before I get into them, I gotta give a little context to it. So it's I'm pretty sure everyone has recently heard about the surface reports regarding the allegations of the supposed child pornography, I believe, being recovered. It was initially started by Radar Online, and it was
it's utterly ridiculous. This information, to the extent it even exists, was litigated thoroughly back in 2004 and 2005. You know, this information is dated. It's irrelevant. They exaggerated what was found, and you know, you saw what the jury thought of it in the verdict: 14 not guilties, 10 felonies, 4 misdemeanors, not guilty across the board. So why anybody would have revealed that stuff and spun it the way they did, I don't know. But it's old news. It's exaggerated news. It's irrelevant news. It means nothing.
Yeah. With all the developments in the story and stuff like that, it was a travesty how they reported it. It was really especially depressing to see mainstream media and stuff like that take the story verbatim and just report it straight up without ever questioning the source, you know, and the doctored images throughout the report that Radar Online supposedly had. But I mean, in spite of all that, I've seen people who've been looking for confirmation bias, a lot of anti-Michael people, you know, in light of the recent allegations come out and propose a couple of things. they were saying, you know, even after we found out, you know, none of the stuff would leak. People try to chalk it up to a technicality. They try to say that this stuff wasn't technically child pornography, or at the time it wasn't child pornography, but somehow at the current moment in time it would be classified as child pornography. Some guy tried to tell me NAMBLA or some organization like that considers it child pornography. I don't know. They say the defense had, like, you know, even though we know that nothing's new, people try to say that some of the evidence could have been possibly precluded, you know, deemed inadmissible, something of that sort. Or
look, I'm telling you, these prosecutors were out to win. They were willing to do anything to win this case, no matter how outrageous. We battled with them from day one. And the stuff that was recovered at Neverland was presented to the jury. The jury rejected these allegations. They said the prosecution couldn't prove one single count beyond a reasonable doubt, even misdemeanors. I mean, it's ridiculous to even raise this stuff. I don't understand why it became a news story. And I'll tell you, this is what the media can do. Suppose you were an animal rights activist, okay? Maybe you are, I don't know. Suppose you're an animal rights activist. And while being an animal rights activist, you collected pictures of animals being slaughtered to show the public that this is wrong, that this should not be done, that this kind of cruelty is not consistent with a civilized society. Suppose somebody raided your home and found those pictures and said you're into animal cruelty. How would you feel?
Yeah.
You see what my point is? They took anything they could, spun it every way they could to try and get a conviction. You know, they tried to intimidate my defense team, threatening to come after us for obstruction of justice, said we were being investigated while we were preparing the defense, because they claimed that court orders were being violated and information was being given to the media. They were doing anything they could do to pull out a conviction. And they failed miserably because this stuff did not happen. So, you know, people keep trying to spin things their way. But you got to be very careful with what you see in the media these days, because, like I just said, an animal rights activist will put pictures all over town about animals being slaughtered, animals being victimized, animals being tortured, you know, to try and prove their point. And it's like these guys going into that person's apartment, grabbing some photos and saying, he's into animal torture. Okay?
Yeah. And one more thing, if you could. Also, I've heard that Wade Robeson, for his trial going forward to 2017, and this story kind of fell under the map, and you know, in light of all that outrageous stuff, which was that he was trying to, his lawyers, he switched lawyers, I believe, and he was trying to go ask Chandler if he could assist him somehow in some sort of way. And I think, in a way, some people who were aware of that news story tried to tout, following the, you know, mitigating developments in the stories regarding the alleged child pornography, which is absolutely ridiculous. They try to say that, you know, that Chandler's description matched Michael's anatomy, which was absolutely outrageous. And then somebody in an argument tried to point out to me, they showed me a video where Sneddon was I believe there was a report that Sneddon, the prosecutor, was touting that it was his belief that the pictures did match with the actual description.
Well, look, again, this is old news. All of these issues were litigated in court. You had a prosecution team that would stop at nothing. They hired experts from around the world. They went to the FBI on numerous occasions to seek help. They went to the CIA. They did all sorts of things, okay? They were going to pull all stops. They had this huge team. They had every forensic expert on the planet trying to help them, a jury consultant, a public relations firm. All this stuff was litigated thoroughly and dismissed by the jury. So I don't think there's any issue here. This stuff shouldn't have been publicized. It was like not even a story. It wasn't a current story. I don't know where it came from. But basically, the article was mischaracterizing this evidence. The article was misrepresenting, you know, what the evidence really demonstrated, in my opinion. And it's old news, and it's irrelevant news.
Thanks for the call. Let's go out to 504. Please state your name and where you're calling from. Your line is open, and you are next. 504. It's your turn.
Yeah, my name is David Edwards, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I have a question for Mr. Mesereau. Do you regret the fact that the 2005 trial was not televised? Yeah, Mr. Mesereau, do you regret the fact that the 2005 trial was not televised? And can you imagine
I
how
apologize.
I'm
on a street, and let me just try. I'm having trouble hearing you. Let me move my location. Go ahead.
Right. Do you wish that the 2005 trial would have been televised, and can you imagine how different the media coverage would have been had the trial been televised?
I'm embarrassed to say I'm having trouble hearing.
He said,
can you talk louder?
His question was, Tom, can you imagine if your trial was televised and how the media would have reacted if the trial was televised?
Well, if it were televised, the public would have seen both sides. They would have seen the direct examination by the prosecution of their witnesses, and they would have seen the cross-examination by the defense. As it went down, what would happen was the media people who were against us were watching the direct examination, which was very similar to the kind of witness examination that occurred in the grand jury room, where, again, there was no judge and no defense attorney present. And as soon as they heard the direct examination, they were running out to report it and not waiting to see what the defense did. And I can honestly tell you that the defense cross-examination of these witnesses was devastating. One after another, they were being proven to lack credibility, to be exaggerating. I mean, it was like dominoes falling. Now, had it been televised, you would have seen that. But on the other hand, witnesses would have also seen what other witnesses were saying. And I really did not want that to happen. I had my own strategy involved. I prepared my cross-examinations with a clear strategy, and I didn't want prosecution witnesses turning on the tube and watching what other witnesses said before they got on the stand. I didn't want family members, the Arvizo family, watching what others said before they got up to testify. So I was against having everything televised. There were some other reasons why I didn't want it televised too, but the answer to the question is the public would have seen what the defense was doing more than they were able to see by just listening to the biased media.
Yeah, thank you. That's excellent analysis. I really appreciate that. I never thought about that.
Okay, well, thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go out to 780 is up. Please state your name and where you're calling from. It's your turn. 780.
Hi, yes, my name is Wendy. I'm calling from Canada.
Hi,
Wendy.
Hi, Mr. Mesereau. I was just going to ask, I heard you mentioning about the petition, about boycotting the book. What do you think about the fact that I have started a petition about boycotting the book?
Well, that's your right and your privilege. But what I was just giving my personal view, I don't participate in boycotts of books.
Okay.
It's just my philosophical outlook. I'm not saying you can't do it. I don't like boycotts of books because I think they have a tendency to stifle the free exchange of ideas. And I'm a great believer in free press. I'm a great believer in free expression. If you disagree with someone, get up and disagree with that person. But I think the interchange of different ideas, ideas which are polar opposites, is something that I really value. And also the idea that you would boycott something that you haven't read.
Right,
I don't particularly like that
But why would I want to give money to someone that, he was accused and convicted of involuntary manslaughter, and I just can't condone something like that. Like when Michael was alive,
I'm not
and
buying
even now.
his book, and I'm not spending a penny on his book. I'm not buying it.
Right, but it just, all of Michael's life, people were saying stuff about him, but Michael's not here now to defend himself, and I figure it's up to us fans that we have to do something to kind of, the estate, I don't know if they are doing anything, but I just want people to know that I don't want to read anything like that about Michael, and I can't.
Sure.
It's just not right for me to do that.
Right. Well, listen, I'm not telling you what to do or not to do. That's strictly up to you. I'm just giving you my individual, my personal opinion. I don't join book boycotts, but in this case, I'm not buying his book. I'm not reading it. And it worries me that a book boycott might even give him more attention. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it's not.
No,
true.
I
I'm
think
not saying
a lot of fans, they kind of know that, we're not going to, support something so negative about Michael that I kind of want to remember the good things about Michael.
I'm not criticizing those who are doing it. I understand your motives. I'm not criticizing. I'm just giving you my individual opinion. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I have no use for Conrad Murray. I made that clear. And I don't even like talking about him and giving him attention, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm thinking about Michael because it's his birthday coming up before too long.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Bye. Thanks for the call. Let's go out to area code 540 Virginia. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Hi.
540.
Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Mary. We have
hi.
from
This
Virginia.
is Mary Wainwright, and thank you for taking my call. It's a pleasure to talk to Mr. Mesereau again.
Same here. Thank you.
I guess I just have just quick questions on the Freddie Gray incident. What do you think would have been the right charges on him that could have had his conviction?
I'm not sure any would have, the way the system works. I think that if these charges have been presented to a jury, I think there would have been a much greater chance of conviction.
Yeah, I agree too. I'm just wondering though, because the jury does not have a lot of medical knowledge, and it was a series of things that happened. Yet it wasn't one person that caused his death. You know what I'm saying? I do agree that a jury would have found them guilty, but I'm just kind of on the fence on this one because, none of them, I'm sure, intended that to have happened, and no one even thought that it could have even happened. The fact that he sustained such a catastrophic blow to his neck that is what actually killed him. And it happened en route, and all of it, the way he was shackled and the way he was posed and all of that. But then again, it may not have even happened to, say, someone else. I don't know.
Well, I wasn't in the van, and I don't know these officers. For all I know, they may have intended to hurt him. I don't know.
Yeah.
We all like to think that our police officers don't behave that way, but we've seen enough videos to show that some of them do.
Yeah, I
understand. So did they intend to physically hurt him? Did they intend to treat him in a subhuman way? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe they did.
Well, I don't know either. And the other interesting thing is that they stopped him for having a switch knife, which in Maryland is legal to carry.
Yeah. But
apparently they locked eyes, and he was a troublemaker. Apparently, they knew of him, and so it's just a really unfortunate thing that happened to such a young man. And I live in Northern Virginia, so it's everyone here was impacted on both ways.
Yes.
And then the subsequent riots that happened afterwards too.
Well, you have to understand that our jury system doesn't require a jury of doctors because there's medical evidence. Our jury system operates under the premise that you get 12 people from different walks of life, different life experiences, different types of employment, different family experiences, cultural, religious, you name it. And when you put those 12 people together, they will all see things in a special way. And when they interact in the jury room and pool all of their thoughts and all of their impressions and all of their beliefs, that a greater level of justice will result than having 12 doctors on a jury.
Right.
So it's up to the lawyers to present medical evidence in a way that's understandable and effective and compelling.
Yeah, I understand. And I want to get a quick opinion from you. You're familiar with the Stephen Avery and the Brandon Dassey case that his conviction was just overthrown?
I'm not familiar with the details of the case, but I did hear about that. Yes.
Okay, and he was overthrown because it was a coerced confession. He did not have any representation whatsoever. He was underage, and his IQ also, like he didn't even know what the word inconsistent meant. When so I was just wondering if you had an opinion, but so you're not that familiar with it.
False confessions happen all the time.
Right.
And an unethical interrogator can get particularly a teenager to go along with them. They'll say, look, this will make your life better. We'll send you home.
Exactly.
You'll be with your mom. You'll be with your friends.
You want to do the right thing.
All you have to do is agree to this.
Yeah.
That goes on all the time.
Yeah, that's sad. That's exactly what happened. So I'm just wondering because the other guy, his uncle, got convicted because of the confession. So I wonder how that will play in on whether his case will be affected.
Oh, I think it will definitely be effective.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
Hopefully, I mean, the idea that this confession came in as evidence against this person is certainly nobody can disregard that.
Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you, and you have a nice evening, and thank you, Jordan. Have a great time.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Mary. Let's go out to one last caller. We go out to Huntington Beach, and Sarah says hello. Good evening, Sarah. You're on the King Jordan Radio with Tom Mesereau.
Hi, Jordan. Hi, Mr. Mesereau. What a fabulous opportunity to speak with you, and I'm a little nervous, actually. When you mentioned Jerry Spence, it just brought back a flush of wonderful memories. I think listening to him when he would be on television a lot talking about many, many cases, and I remember his suede jacket and his cowboy hat, and he just made me love the law. And and I just wanted to say thank you for bringing Jerry Spence's name up because he was something wonderful. Just a couple of things I want to ask you. Number one is I'm not quite sure how long you've been practicing, Mr. Mesereau, so I'm not saying this with any disrespect or anything, but did you practice before there were actual jury consultants? Did you do trials before those jury consultants were brought in?
Well, until I agreed to represent actor Robert Blake in his homicide case, I had never used a jury consultant in my career. My clients couldn't afford them. And frankly, I was always a bit suspicious of them.
Do you think the acquittal rate?
Pardon me?
Do you think the acquittal rate is higher when a defendant can afford a jury consultant?
I don't know the answer to that. I think if a defendant can afford a jury consultant, there's certainly no harm in getting the kind of information the jury consultant will give you. But I will tell you this, in the Michael Jackson case, I had a jury consultant with a great reputation, and she did all sorts of focus group studies and put together a lengthy, detailed report, which basically showed what an ideal prosecution juror would be, what an ideal defense juror would be, made all these statistical and correlations between age and race and part of town where you lived and income and political affiliation and blah blah, and then had a study of what factors most influenced the pro-prosecution juror, what factors most influenced the pro-defense juror. It was very interesting information. I had never tried a case in that county, which is north of LA County where I live, and I can tell you that I rejected almost all of it.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's interesting.
I believe that with experience and a certain level of talent and insight and concern, that your intuitions, your instincts are going to be far more important than anything a jury consultant comes up with. That's what I believe.
And I believe you. Sometimes I think I share the same, not a professional opinion, but just my own personal opinion. that I just kind of, when I first learned about jury consultants, I did have a negative connotation, and I just thought, well, what is that all about? The lawyers should choose the juries and go by the law and go by all the things that they're supposed to follow. So I didn't really like the idea. And then when they would all appear on television and boast and brag about their work and everything, I tried to have a better understanding and a better conception of what they are and what they do. And I don't know for sure if I ever, God forbid, if I was ever on trial, I don't know if I would want one or not. But I sure would like you to defend me. And
well, thank you. I mean, listen,
and the other thing is,
the jury consultants in the O.J. Simpson case have been bragging for years that they really picked the right jury. Now, they came up with a conclusion that in that courthouse, in that part of town, during that period of time, this is like a year and a half after the Rodney King injustice, that can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm here. I'm here.
They did some studies and they concluded that black women would be best for O.J. Simpson. Do you think Johnny Cochran needed a jury consultant to tell him that?
No, I don't think so. No.
I don't think so.
I
either.
don't. And the other thing I was going to say is I'm glad that you're a defense attorney, but you also can take your defense attorney hat off. And when you see and talk about a case that should be prosecuted, that you do that willingly and fairly. And I really like that about you, because so many times defense attorneys will not take that hat off and just only see through those defense eyes. And I just think everybody has to be fair. And I think prosecutors, too, need to take those glasses off sometimes and say, you know what, we need to look at this again, or we need to have a different opinion. So I just have one more quick question, because I know there's probably more callers and you're probably ready to go. Just a fun little question. If there was a trial and the powers that be appointed you as the prosecutor, who would you want to be the defense attorney?
I don't know how to answer that question. Are you saying who would make it easier for me to convict? Is that what you're saying?
No, who would make it so hard that it would be like a Muhammad Ali fight in the ring, that you really had to give it your all because you knew that defense attorney was just as good as you?
Well, I think the best trial lawyer I ever saw was Johnny Cochran.
Oh, okay. All righty, that's a good answer. I was kind of thinking Alan Dershowitz, but what do I know? But
I don't think of him as much of a trial lawyer. Johnny Cochran was the most gifted, skilled trial lawyer I ever watched. And you need to watch his closing argument in the O.J. Simpson case, the complete closing argument, and then watch some of the comments during that closing argument. It is an absolute tour de force. It's an amazingly great closing argument. And I remember watching it on Court TV, and I remember they switched to New York, and you had a round table of legal analysts. One of them was the district attorney of Brooklyn, who had been teaching trial practice for 30 years. And he said, I've been, for 30 years, been going to law schools in New York and teaching that your closing argument should be quick and clear and sweet and to the point. Don't make it too long. And he said, I've now got to reconsider everything I've been teaching after what I just watched.
Wow. Well, a pleasure talking to you, sir, and always a pleasure, Jordan. Thank you so much for taking my call. It was a very great show tonight, Jordan.
Nice talking to you.
So
Thanks
much,
for calling.
Okay.
Jordan, I'm going to have to leave.
Tom, I want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight on the King Jordan Radio Show. You gave us a wonderful show from A to Z, and please join us again.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's always an honor, and I hope I'm on again. And thank you for everyone who listened and everyone who called in. Have a great evening.
Take care, Tom. We'll speak to you soon. That was the one and only Tom Mesereau, ladies and gentlemen. He successfully defended Michael Jackson, Robert Blake, Mike Tyson. There were charges for him, but he never, it never made it court with the help of Tom Mesereau. I do want to mention to, if you like listening to these three shows, please go to KingJordanSportsandMedia.com and please give any type of donation. That would be much appreciated. Also, I do want to give a shout out to Bo Cragen, who is listening from Australia. Also, Maddie, who's listening. Mary, who called in. Sarah, who called in. And everybody else who called in. Now, I'm going to play Farewell My Summer Love. Believe it or not, this is not Michael Jackson, but it sounds just like him. Take a listen. We'll be back next time. Thank you so much, everybody who retweeted this on Twitter. Shout out to all of you. And shout out to everybody who helped in some capacity. Good night, everybody.